Ladies and gentlemen, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word culture? Is it perhaps the various types of music produced in our country? The vast array of different traditional clothes? Or is it the fact that our country has more than 700 different local languages? Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear the word culture is national identity. A nation's culture is its identity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Firyal Dhia from As-Shofa Islamic Senior High School. And today, the topic I've chosen is culture is the identity of a nation and must be protected. Judges and audience, I'm sure we all know that our country is most famous for its diverse culture. However, nowadays, most people have forgotten about its attendance. Globalization processes have embraced all spheres of life, having one way or another directly or indirectly affected the economy, politics, and especially culture. The sphere of culture is most sensitive to such manifestations because from the very beginning, it is the most diverse. Each of the cultures is unique, creating its own unique system of values which distinguishes its carrier from the subject of other cultures and determines its peculiarity, originality, as well as resistance to socio-cultural changes. Globalization is a meeting of intense local and cultural values between nations that tend to harm developing countries, and in this case, our country. In parallel, there is a tendency to search for the traditional value base, its preservation and retransmission by the younger generation through various social institutions. This is what many of us now see as a way to overcome the negative effects of globalization. Therefore, the issues of traditional values and the preservation of national culture as a national identity in the modern globalized space is more acute than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia is a nation with such cultural diversity and abundant natural wealth. Our nation's culture cannot just be described by the many different traditional dances, traditional clothes, traditional ceremonies, local cuisines, or even tourist destinations that are also a part of the rich natural resources. It cannot just be described by its 700 different local languages, 38 provinces, nearly 17,000 islands, and more than 1,000 tribes. There will be no end to the talk about how rich Indonesian culture is. Then the red and white flag, the national anthem, our national heroes and their past struggles, past royal glories, historical relics, and Pancasila, Indonesia's national ideology, which was appointed based on the values of customs and the cultural values of the Indonesian nation that exists in the life of the community and aims to unite the community into one whole Indonesian national identity. Because as I've said before, Indonesia is a country with various cultures, ethnicities, tribes, languages, etc. However, we all have one thing in common: our ideology. Pancasila is our ideology. There are 5 community cultural values listed in the Pancasila ideology, and these 5 have long been the identity of the Indonesian nation since Indonesia's independence, namely 1945. These 5 community cultural values are what have been keeping our nation of many distinctions united for so many years. For example, gotong royong. That is the power of Pancasila, our ideology, which not only plays a major part in our nation's identity, but our identity as well. Judges and audience, hearing this now and letting it really sink in, aren't you proud? Aren't you proud to be part of a nation with such beautiful cultural diversity and integrity? Aren't you proud that it's a part of your identity? Indonesia is now at a pitiful level in the flow of globalization, in which the access provided by globalization allows each part of society to come into contact with other groups which also have different cultural values, which is actually okay. That is until society forgets its own culture. It is okay, it's great actually, to explore other nations' cultures. However, it is not okay to disregard our own. Cultural values themselves are a form of a nation's identity. So if a country has lost its culture, then it has directly lost its identity. The only way to maintain our nation's current cultural values are by preserving, recognizing, learning, and honoring it. By taking real action to continue to implement the local cultural values in the joints of community life at large. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for my speech. Thank you all so much for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.